One of the keys to the question may be in alcoholic withdrawal. In the DTs, people typically see little things, either little mice with jackets on or a whole brass band about so tall walking around on the table. And of course we know that alcohol, again, closely acts on GABA, and you get GABA rebound. So I think we're talking about the same sort of phenomenon.
Joanna?
Perhaps if we try to look at it in relation to cognitive changes in, say, memory or attention, focused attention, we may find that it's actually in these details that we actually try and learn something about the scientific explanation for the more subjective reports.
As darkness fell on the first night, our volunteers arrived. One of them, who runs a small business in Brighton, was experienced in the use of fly agaric. Well, Ed, come in and join us. I don't think you've met Cosmo?
No.
And Joanna and Mrs. Michael. Ed, I understand that you're not unfamiliar with the nature of the fly agaric.
No, that's true.
I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about your own subjective experiences of what it feels like.
It's like having the most amazing computer animation sequence running through your head. Something like that is what I experienced in that kind of situation.
Could you give us a description of these images, these visions?
I saw landscapes, but not landscapes that are familiar to
Is it like
the
virtual
world.
reality type experience?
With a computer animation, when you look at it, you know that it's not real. With the kind of experience I had with fly agaric, the kind of internal visualizations I was getting were very real.
We were also joined by Johnny Green, a freelance writer. For him, taking the fly agaric the following day would be a completely new experience. Well, Johnny, I suppose the question that we have in mind is, how do you feel about what we're asking you to undertake?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I've read a bit about sort of South American Indians and their sort of involvement with hallucinogenic plants, because I'm half Latin American, sort of reading about my culture. But apart from that, fly agaric's going to be completely new to me.
Well, I'd like to go around and ask you what you think that we're going to learn from some of the tests that we're going to carry out tomorrow with the volunteers who will be taking Amanita. Cosmo?
Well, first of all, I'm interested in seeing the quality and the nature of the subjective experience that the volunteers have and how they share it with us. But I think even more interestingly, I'm interested in seeing how that correlates with some of the physical measures, such as the EEG, the brain mapping, and the other physiological techniques that we're going to be looking at. That, for me, would be fascinating.
Michael?
I want them to help me to understand how it feels and how it seems to a human mind that is crossing over this enormous threshold between the worlds.
Joanna?
Well, I'm going to use some computerized touchscreen tests which assess different aspects of cognitive function, including perceptual ability. So as well as looking at memory and learning and attention, which I think is probably very important in the perceptual aspects.
It was not long before a fundamental disagreement developed between my guests. Cosmo and Joanna, as scientists interested in the physical and mental aspects of the mushroom, saw it as distorting the world, while Michael saw it as giving us access to new and different perceptions, new interpretations of reality.
We have a historic record going back over 3 centuries and involving reports from 30 or 40 credible witnesses that these mushrooms do, in fact, initiate a very extraordinary phenomenon.
Well, are you saying that taking this mushroom makes you see little things that look like fairies?
No. What it does, first of all, for anyone who takes these mushrooms, it alters their awareness, it alters their ability to perceive reality, and that is fairyland or the outland or the otherworldly phenomenon we're talking about.
You're really saying that taking these mushrooms allows you to see another reality. I may be somewhat slow here, but I can't see why we're not just dealing with an illusion and even an hallucination. Now, you can learn a lot from illusions. They can be very entertaining. They can tell you a lot, but they're not real. And you're talking about this being a real other world.
You said we've got to decide whether these things are actually real or whether this is actually valid. Now, that sort of terminology is not scientific. It is totally subjective. And I think we should examine the phenomenon before we try to conclude what might not exist in nature.
Cosmo later rightly reminded us of the need for medical supervision, for the mushroom is highly toxic in overdose.
I think we have to be a little bit careful about the dangers of exotic drugs.
No doubt about that.
They have side effects. They can cause mental illness if taken an overdose.
They can cause death. They can cause coma. They're extremely powerful chemicals. They could be seen, and they could be, I think, validly described as very powerful scientific instruments. And, of course, they should be respected. They certainly should not be dallied with or played with or fooled with.
As the team turned in, I wondered what the next day's experiment would bring. For we were about to investigate something that had never previously undergone scientific scrutiny. Excitement was in the air as the day of the experiment began.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You've got the statue, haven't you? Oh, the statue was in there, yes.
We had come to find out whether the fly agaric was part of a lost worldview in which nature is alive with spirits, and whether this might have given us the idea of little people and other mythical images. Can we recreate this world through the mushroom?
Just hit your temperature.
Our volunteers were about to take a powerful hallucinogen. Before they did, Joanna and Cosmo needed to conduct their tests on the volunteers in their normal state. This would give them a baseline level to compare with the readings taken when the fly agaric began to take hold. They recorded heart rate, body temperature, and reflexes like pupil dilation and eye movement, all of which might be dramatically altered by the effects of the plant.
And minimal vertical nystagmus.
We would also be keeping watch for any signs of toxic side effects, such as nausea, palpitations, and headaches.
Okay, so which one was it?
Joanna's computer tests would check memory, pattern recognition, and spatial perception,
Okay.
which indicate how competently the brain is processing information.
Okay, so for this test, I'm going to show you a few examples. Okay? So in this example, you've got a pattern in the red box, and you've got 4 patterns below. And I want you to touch the pattern in the white boxes, which exactly matches the one in the red box. Okay, so which is the exact match?
That one?
Perfect. Okay, so some of them are a little harder. Eyes open.
There was also to be an electroencephalograph test.
The EEG measures the electrical activity on the surface of the brain. And so by looking at, for example, the alpha rhythm, we can detect states of consciousness and the heart rate. We're going to look at real stimuli such as flashing lights, intense smells, blindfolding someone so there's an absence of stimuli. And we are looking to see whether there are internally generated stimuli such as hallucinations, illusions, or altered states of consciousness, which may be recognized as being distinct from real external stimuli.